Hey, welcome back to the fourth and final part of the repair series of my 1959 Allis-Chalmers D-17. If you're new here, this machine is a fairly recent purchase of mine, and I'm just kind of going through it front to back, checking everything out, repairing things, and this is going to be the wrapping up portion of that process. So if you haven't seen the first three videos on this, you might want to check them out. The link to the playlist is down below. Appreciate y'all watching. Let's get to the video.
I cleaned the burrs up on this thing. Should have done that before I cleaned it out. Now I'm covered in scrapes. I'm gonna wash this solder off here. Okay, so we've got the tank pretty well cleaned out now. Got that solder cleaned off. We can see what we're working with. Looks like there's a crack kind of coming up the back here. Nothing that isn't repairable. Like I already mentioned, this thing could have been fixed up correctly the first time and you wouldn't have had near this kind of mess. But I'm just going to try to beat these dents out, the one that was already there, and then these new ones that I unfortunately added. And yeah, kind of get this thing straightened back out and we'll start putting it back together, I guess. A little bit chunky there. You can see the kind of, all the shiny stuff's a little higher and the darker spots are low. So these need to come up yet. And then like right here, it's a little high. We can drive that all down. Well, I think I have got this as good as I can and basically run out of luck with what talent I've got. So it's not perfect. It's got lots of little, I mean, just from beating on it, it's got dings and dents in it, but I don't know. It's way better than that pile of Bondo that was in it. So let me move on to my freshly added dents here. I think these should be easier to beat out, more of a flat surface. I've definitely reached the spot where I've run out of talent. Any of this metal is now stretched to where I can't flatten it back out with my skills. And it's not too bad. It really not too bad. So I'm probably, when I get it back together, I'm just going to fog some paint onto this and try to blend it in. 'Cause I'm kind of going for that original look, but if I got to put a little bit of glaze on this or something, it'll be fine. It's definitely better than that pile of Bondo that was in there. And the dents that I added today really didn't come out too bad. So got these gouges in it. It's not pretty, but that's down towards the bottom of the tank. You know, is what it is. Just fix it and move on. But I'm to the point where I can put this back together and start welding it shut. I've got the TIG torch putting argon in here, so if this heats up and I don't know, anything becomes volatile, that gas will sit in this tank. The fuel gauge hole and the filler neck is all sealed off, so it'll push the air out from around this patch and all these gaps and we'll fill it with argon, so that inert gas should keep anything from exploding if it does become volatile. Alright, so I got the bottom piece here all welded back in. Put a few beads of weld around this tank outlet. I don't know if they brazed or soldered that originally, but it did not weld well. And where they had solder and some sealer around these edges of the seams, I welded those shut in hopes to permanently seal up those two spots. So I'm going to refill it up with water and see if it leaks. Try to take my time welding it here, so hopefully no leaks. Got it full of water here, and it looks like we still have a leak, but the leak is actually coming from right here. There's a crack along the weld line, so I thought it was on the outer part of the seam here that was like kind of seeping, like it was internally split, but I can see right here along the top it's split, so I have to weld that split shut. And same with this side, the split is underneath here, so we'll have to weld that. But everything else looks pretty dry. There's a, I can't tell, it's not seeping, but I can't tell if it's a scratch or a crack right there, so I'll take a closer look at that. But I don't think anything else is leaking, so not too bad. Did a little more welding on it here where I found the cracks. Some down here where there was a crack as well, so hopefully that's it. Fingers crossed. Well, it's been sitting here for a couple hours now and everything is dry, so I drain this thing down and dry it out, and well, I guess we'll blow a little primer, and if I got some paint laying around, we'll put some paint on this thing, try to blend it in. I did just get a hold of a guy that's got 2 of these tanks that I'm going to pick up for 150 bucks, and that would have been well worth not messing with this one, but it's already done, so the hours and hours of labor definitely add up to more than 150 bucks, but whatever. We'll have a couple spares. Well, I blew everything out and put some fuel in it, clean that out, and put some WD-40 in it. So hopefully that keeps it from rusting in there. I'm gonna kind of wipe this down a little bit with some acetone and blow a little paint on it. Call it good. It doesn't seem like I've got any primer anywhere, so I've got some flat white. Give that a minute to flash off and we'll hit it with some orange. Well, I've got a little Persian orange. I think this is actually Persian number 2, so it's gonna be darker, but better than rust right now. If you ever wanted to see what number 1 and number 2 look like, this looks like red nearly. That's ugly, but need to pick up some paint. We'll touch it up right later. Maybe even swap it out for one of those other tanks someday. Well, I couldn't stand that other paint anymore, so I fogged on some Persian orange number 1 I picked up at Agco today. it's a little better match, and hopefully I can kind of blend it in without it making it look like the whole tank's been repainted. We'll see. I'm working on kind of polishing this grill up. I'm doing a little bit at a time, kind of splitting the work up so I'm not too worn out on it. But there's your before and after a little bit of buffing. It's not perfect, but it looks way better than this. So got that AC emblem shining up too, looks good. Got the tank cleaned and buffed up pretty good now. You can definitely see the line where I painted here, but it's blended in decently and I don't think it looks too bad. I'm gonna put the fuel gauge back in. I cut a new gasket for it. Before I set this fuel tank back in here, I want to, this little plate down here, that's kind of like a wear plate for the hydraulic stops on this thing, and I don't want it to move. So I got some new rivets. I'm gonna drill these out and we're gonna put a few new rivets in there. Checking the condition of this plate. That edge is slightly wore off here and here, so I'm gonna add a little bit of weld there just to square it up real quick. Put a little weld on those two edges and now they're back square to the base material. We will just slide this back in here. And I got some new pop rivets. Okay, there we go. We got it all riveted back in there. And now we've got a nice catch, both top and bottom. Everything in here has been cleaned up pretty good while I had it apart, so we should be good to put that tank back in. Of course, you try to do things beforehand and they just get in your way. There we go. Well, I got the lower tank bolts in there. Our tank strap back on there. On the later tanks, you'll see a center strap come down and hook into the steering column. That prevented the cracking issue on that rear bracket. I think they even went to like threaded pieces that go right into the tank instead of that angled piece. Someone made this hole fit a coarse thread bolt, so I gotta re-tap this out to fit the fine thread it should. Up next, we've got the front piece here, where it sits on the fuel tank here. You just put washers underneath this to kind of set your height, so it's not riding on the tank but just above it. On the front here, you just have two bolts that go up from the bottom and secure this front piece in place. Got these hoods clamped on just to figure out where everything's got to sit so it buckles nicely, but just another kind of contrast of how well that paint is cleaning up. I'll get this grill put back on here before I poke that really nice radiator with something. I'm gonna start working on this fuel line now. Just going to follow the pattern of the old one, and we'll cut the rest to length. Close enough for me. And I'm gonna feed this line up through here. Feed it up and over. Kind of eyeball it here and mark it. Something about right there. Just trying to make sure we can get this bowl out to get a new line in. Would have been nice if I'd left just a little bit more on that line, but it'll be okay. Should clear everything. Getting close to hearing this thing run again. Real close. Got the fuel line unhooked, so the first bit of fuel coming out of this tank I can catch. Make sure we're not gonna flush any like crud into the carburetor. And there actually was a little bit of stuff there. It might not have hurt anything, but it's worth catching if you ask me. Most likely that was out of the fuel line itself. Okay, let's turn the fuel on and fill the bowl. Let's see if anything's sticking. I don't know, seems pretty good. I think we should fire this thing up. All right, let's fire it up. We haven't heard it with the new exhaust or nothing yet. A tune up. Of course, it sounds good. Nice and smooth. I think we should go out and run this around a little bit, and I'm actually going to hook a plow up to it so we can test the hydraulics and see if they're working correctly or if they're settling at all, or, you know, that's the easiest way to check that, just hook an implement up. Well, it picked it up, and it's not immediately dropping it, so that's a good sign. I am thinking I need to adjust this little arm down here because it's picking up a bit more slowly than I think it should. See if I push it all the way, if it comes up faster. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I want to adjust that arm. Okay. So for this adjustment here, all I'm looking to do is slightly lengthen this little rod in here, and that will push the lever farther in the hydraulic control when it comes up and sits into this detent. So it's sitting right there on the bottom, but I need it to really be like moved that much when it's right there. So just adjusting that. Okay, so I made the adjustment on this. Just took this cotter key out and turned that rod out 2 turns. And here's kind of the, so you've seen what it was before. So we'll let her down. So then this is in, just sitting in the detent. That's where it's supposed to be. That's perfect. Well, we can check the hydraulics now. We've got the arms up in the air. And we're down towards the bottom, so let's add, I don't know, probably a quarter or so is all it needs. That sound you hear in the back's neighbor John out there mowing the waterways. Yep, that brought it right up there. Perfect. Well, this is the good part. Get to put the side shields back on it. Make this thing look good once again. There we go. I got some new stainless steel hardware for this instead of all the 3 or 4 different mismatched bolts that were on it. Got them installed. They're looking pretty good. This side looks pretty good. There's actually one more piece that goes right here. They're almost always lost. I'm gonna end up remaking this fuel line because I didn't realize it went in, like thinking back now I remember how they do this, but they go back and then they come out right here, and how I originally did it, I had it cut too short. So now my kind of like the bend here to take up some of the vibration is gone, and it really needs like 2 more inches in the whole line. So I'll buy a new piece and remake that at some point. Now that this has went through a heat cycle, I'm gonna retorque these. Underneath the clutch housing here, I need to check. Ooh, that's no good. Let's get the vacuum. Okay, well, what I was saying is we need to grease the throwout bearing, I think. I don't know if this one has a greasable throwout bearing or not. Doesn't look like it. I'll leave this cover off though so the mouse nest can kind of get out of there. There's only one kind of major thing left to do here, and that's to check these front wheel bearings, and we'll see if they need packed or cleaned, how bad they are. With these inner wheel weights on this thing, you can't take the lug bolts out. I mean, you can, but you can't get the wheel off the hub. So I'm just going to take everything apart here, which it don't look bad, but I think it's worth at least pulling apart and making sure there's fresh grease in there. There we go. Outer bearing. Doesn't look too bad, but definitely could use some fresh grease. It looks really good, actually. It almost looks, well, it's not new, but it's in really good shape. Yeah, these look like they were done not too long ago. There's some pretty good looking grease in there. We'll pop this inner bearing out. Same deal, don't look too bad, but could definitely use some fresh grease. Well, we get the greaser here, got our bearing, drop our bearing in, the pusher, and then just line it up in the vise. If you've got one of these little greasers like this, the vise makes it way easier. And just squeeze it through till we get clean grease. And back it off. Scoop all that dirty grease out of there. Same with this. Clean out the race here. Smear a little fresh grease on there. And drop our packed bearing in. A bit of grease on that. Let's get that right on the rollers. Okay, it's in there. Now our bearing shield. And put our felt seal back in. Clean this outer race off. Not sure what these weigh with these weights. They're not exactly light. I can tell you that much. Our outer bearing, our washer, and the nut. I think that's good. Put our caps back on. Now to do the other side. You know, so I was reading through comments on these videos a while back, and I usually do. I try to read all of them. And, you know, I see fairly often that people comment and mention how, you know, making these videos motivates them to work on their old stuff. You know, maybe a project that they've had sitting in a corner, or just something they've been dreading to do. And, you know, I work a full-time job, and I just do this stuff on the evenings and the weekends. And it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work to make the video out of it too. Not only in the time it takes to set this up, to different angles and stuff, but the editing takes a long time. But anyways, what I'm getting at here is you can do this on your nights and weekends too. You know, you don't have to do it every day, but just pick away at it. You know, if you got to do wheel bearings or something, if you can do one a night, and eventually, you know, you'll get done with the project. So, you know, it's nice to hear that, you know, this is kind of motivating to people. And I hope it continues that way. Alright, I better watch what I'm doing. I've really been trying to prioritize making these videos lately, and it's something that I'm probably going to have to slack off of a little bit, because warm weather is here right now, but it's going to be snowing, I'm sure, before we know it. And I've got a list a mile long of property maintenance and building maintenance to do, and that stuff really does need to get done. And these tractors don't particularly need to be worked on. So if you notice some videos slacking off, that's probably why. This thing is awful handy when it works right. While we're down here, it's a good idea to check these rear pivots and make sure the bolts are tight, because they're, well, exactly like that. They're known to walk loose. And in the later ones, they went from instead of a 2-bolt design, they went to a 4-bolt because of this reason. But eventually those will get loose enough and something breaks, so it's a good idea to check them. Once in a while somebody asks about this tool that I use. It's called a knuckle buddy. I think it's kind of expensive. I got it, my wife got it as a gift. Gave it to me as a gift, and it's really nice. Can't really tell you if it's worth the money though. Don't know what it cost. If you have one of these tractors, you should check those pretty regularly. Someone mentioned in, I don't know, I think it was the last video or maybe like a Facebook post I made, they said, oh, the back pivot on that thing's pretty worn. And it's got a slight bit of wear, but I was at an auction just the other day, and a tractor there, this bottom pin was wore, at least a third of it was gone. So this one is basically brand new. So there it is. It's pretty well kind of wrapped up for right now. There's a couple other miscellaneous projects I want to do on it. I want to add that two-way hydraulic valve on the back, and I did notice that the implement will settle after it sits for a little while, so that's either the valve bypassing or the internal cylinder bypassing, so that's going to need done at some point. Other than that, just little miscellaneous things. I'm going to redo that fuel line. I don't like how it's kind of cobbled up the way I did it. Should have paid attention to where it was to be routed, but the old one was removed, so I didn't really remember. But the tractor should be pretty well good to go. I have a plow day coming up about a week from now, northwest of where I live, and I would like to take this machine and that plow that's hooked to it, so that's the plan. So stick around and hopefully I'll have a video of this tractor and that plow day coming up. But other than that, hopefully you enjoyed watching me work on this 1959 Allis-Chalmers D-17 and kind of bringing it back to its glory. Going through it, we kind of shined it up a little bit. Definitely looks better than it did when I brought it home. So, but I appreciate y'all watching, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one.